Well, we're in London, and we've been making English wines here since 2017. We take fruit from Oxfordshire, Sussex, Kent, Essex, and we bring it to London, and we do all of the fermentations here. And we've been making some fantastic still wines and some interesting sparkling wines as well. Sort of, natural sort of sparkling fizz as well.
And how's it been going? You're obviously selling. Are you selling it all here?
Yes, we're selling it all with Vagabond. I've done a wholesale price list, and I would like to do a little bit more wholesaling, but Vagabond has also been expanding. So the thinking here is that we're better off selling it ourselves than selling it to other people. But as we get bigger, I would very much like to do more wholesaling as well.
What's it like sourcing grapes in the UK?
It's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely tough to source good grapes here. There are a few commercial growers around. I mean, there's a lot of people. There's growers from Cornwall to Kent who are buying from commercial vineyards in Essex, and some of those growers are fantastic, and some of them are a little bit more about yield. So it's about identifying the good sites, but also with good management. I'm really careful about who we buy from, because the climate here is very marginal, and you need some security. You need to know that even in a challenging year, they're going to be able to grow good, clean fruit.
And so 2018, big, warm vintage.
2018 was amazing.
Yeah.
2018 lulled everyone into a sense of security.
And then 19 a bit trickier, yeah?
19 was different. 19 was really wet, actually. I think the thing that saved 19 was the fact that it was wet and cold. So we didn't get a lot of botrytis, which is often the killer. I think in other parts of the world, as harvest comes on, you're watching the sugars go up, you're watching the acid go down, and you're tasting for flavour, looking for ripeness and stuff. In the UK, what tends to happen is, towards October, the sugars slow down or stop completely. Your acid stops completely, and your flavours are still developing, but it's the rot that starts, and you're nearly always forced to pick, and you don't get to choose when you pick. You don't necessarily pick because the grapes are perfectly ripe. You pick because they're as close as you're going to get them, and you've got 5% botrytis, and next week it's going to be 20, and you pick. And that's kind of what happens here. So it's about finding the sites and the growers who can keep the grapes clean for the longest amount of time.
And is it sort of more challenging making still wines than making sparkling?
I could be controversial there. I mean, I think there's a lot of challenges to making both. Sparkling wines can be very tricky, but essentially you're trying to make a fairly neutral base wine. And then a lot of what makes sparkling wine so wonderful happens during the secondary fermentation and autolysis and the Maillard reaction and all those sorts of things, and that's what makes those wines complex. The actual base wines are just high acid neutral wines. Making still wines, it's a different challenge, I guess. A lot of the English wines they're low in alcohol, they're high in acid, they're often very, very delicate, and it's about creating enough mouthfeel to offset the acidity, I think. In the old days, a lot of people were using residual sugar, just to mask the acidity. But these days, at least here, I'm trying to do it with, a combination of barrel fermentation, working with high solids juices to try and create wines that have texture. And then long lees aging, just to try and build out the mid palate, just so that you can create wines that they smell fantastic, but when you drink them, they've also got to taste fantastic. So just trying to build a little bit of mid palate texture into them. We're always going to have tons of acidity. We're going to have heaps of freshness. That's never the problem. It's about balancing that acidity. But the wines are quite delicate, so it's easy to overdo it as well. It's very easy to, when working, I do a lot of work with older barrels because too much new oak here just completely overwhelms the fruit.
So it must be quite nice in the sense there's a challenge, there's nowhere to hide. So.
There's nowhere to hide. No, there's nowhere to hide. You can't hide behind. You don't get tons and tons of fruit flavour at the front end. You don't get a lot of alcohol or body or sweetness via that method either. There's really not many places to hide. It's a challenging place to make wine, but that's also what makes it fun. I think if you can. And I tip my hat to the growers as well. Honestly, if you can grow good grapes here, then you could grow them anywhere.